Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't come here to talk about SALT, but since the ranking member raised it, let me just say, if I was Pennsylvania, I'd like the way things are. Pennsylvania gets $15 billion more from the federal treasury than it contributes to the federal treasury. So if we could do that, I'd be happy to make a deal with all of my colleagues who have a problem with SALT that we'll just get back whatever we send. And New Jersey would be very happy, because there are maker states like New Jersey that invest in education and research and development, in infrastructure, that helps it drive the economy and sends billions to the federal treasury, more than it gets in return. So it's a maker state. And then there are those states that I call Moocher states that get a lot more than it sends to the federal treasury. If you want to continue to have states that are maker states, that are blue chip states, that make money for the federal treasury, then just continue to ox the state and local property tax deduction, which is the longest-serving part of the federal code in terms of a deduction, and you will see those states be less of maker states so that you can continue to mooch off of it. But let me move to the more current issue of the time. There's no doubt that American families are feeling the pain of inflation as supply shortages have wreaked havoc on the world economy. However, that pain has been magnified by companies that are hiding behind the headline inflation figures to justify raising prices and profits on the backs of hardworking Americans. And let's be clear, corporations are not the ones hurting right now. Here's a transcript of Kimberly-Clark's last earnings call a few weeks ago. CEO Mike Hsu stated that the company took, quote, decisive action to offset the impact of higher costs with significant pricing actions. He wasn't kidding. The price of a 50-pack of Kimberly-Clark N95 masks more than doubled from $23.19 to $57.15 from last October to January. And the company's plan for the future is not to deliver relief to consumers, but to resume stock buybacks, quote, as soon as we get the excess cash flow. It's amazing to seek profit beyond simply hiding behind the issue of inflation. Dr. Bernstein, are you seeing this occur in other sectors of the economy as well?
Yeah, profit rates and profit margins are highly elevated for firms across many sectors of the economy. That's a short answer to your question. I guess putting that in the context of our discussion, and by the way, I did want to correct something that Senator Toomey said. Actually, while you're correct about the year-over-year numbers, last month, real wages actually beat inflation. But I wanted to talk about this in the context of wage growth and inflation. It is commonly argued that wage growth is a source of inflation, and that is potentially true based on a full set of other factors that contribute to inflation, including productivity growth and the share of national income that's going to labor or to profits. And it is completely coherent within the algebra of how wages and inflation interact that non-inflationary wage growth can be paid for out of reduced profit margins. And I think that's relevant to.
Well, I just cited one quarterly profit call. There are many others in which clearly the companies are using the guise of inflation to ratchet up their earnings. And that is unconscionable. We have to think about ways in which that transparency can take place so that consumers know. It's just pretty astounding. Let me ask one other question. We're facing a dire labor, even as we talk about a growing economy, we have a labor shortage across the economy, which is contributing also, in my mind, to rising inflation and unmet consumer demand. There are currently nearly 11 million job openings nationwide across low-wage and high school industries. Immigrants are ready and willing to fill those jobs. We had the Secretary of Energy in New Jersey the other day at at one of our research and development centers, the four of the 6 people who made presentations were clearly immigrants to the United States, leading the way in innovation. Unfortunately, there's over 1.6 million immigrants still have pending work permit applications before USCIS, and over 8 million immigrants that are stuck in the broader visa backlog. Leading business groups, including the American Business Immigration Coalition, agree that robust immigration legalization provisions are urgently needed to address our significant labor shortage. What would each of you say is the role of immigrant workers in mitigating the current labor shortage and rising inflation?
Well, thank you, Senator Menendez from the great state of New Jersey. We completely agree, and the president, from day one of his administration, he sent a bill to Congress to modernize the immigration system. He has also issued an executive order directing a top-down review of barriers to access in our legal immigration system, as you know, on which U.S.-based employers rely to fill these critical labor needs. So in response to that order, agencies have worked to create efficiencies in the work permit process, expediting work permit approvals for health professionals, extended the period for which such permits are valid, and are actively considering other administrative actions to expand the labor supply. So immigration is part of the solution here. I will add that part of our labor supply challenge was going to happen just due to the natural demographics of our society. This pandemic hit at the height of pretty much at the height of the baby boom as they were retiring, and we have seen some excess retirements. I will add that a key part of getting people back to work will be addressing the pandemic and ensuring we have the tools so that people can get back to work safely and not risk their health. But there's no question that facilitating dealing with the backlog of these visas is top of mind. The president's team is working on it, and that is part of the solution as well.
Thanks, Senator Menendez. Senator